Welcome to another episode of the Team Check-In, and surprise, surprise, I'm not speaking by myself alone again. Today with me, I have the one, the only, Rebecca Ives. Hi, Rebecca. How are you doing today?
Hi.
As well as being a dog person, she also happens to be an HR consultant for a whole bunch of people. So today, she's going to tell us all about it. So, Rebecca, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yep, sure. So yeah, I'm Rebecca. I live in the north of England in Yorkshire. So apologies if my accent is a bit strange. I will try to speak clearly. Yeah, I've worked within HR for over 15 years now, almost 20 years. I fell into HR. It wasn't something that I was destined to do, not when I was in school and think I really want to get into HR. It just happened. So I fell into HR and I've been in it, for almost 20 years now. I've worked in various organisations, both locally in the UK. I've worked over in Ireland, and I've also worked at a global level for different organisations in different sectors. So a breadth of experience.
Yeah, I feel like more often than not, people don't set out with just HR in their mind. Well, maybe now they do, but I mean, I didn't start the same way as well. So you just happen to find yourself as a part of HR. So so what was the plan and how did you end up in HR?
The plan initially was to be a teacher. Which actually some of the skills have been transferable with delivering learning interventions and so forth, and being comfortable in speaking. But yeah, that was the initial plan. But I came out of university, I needed a job, so I searched for a job. I was working as an admin assistant, which was in a HR department, and luckily for me, the HR manager at the time, he was due to retire within a couple of years. So he was very happy to hand over as much as possible to me. Then they sponsored for me to do my professional qualification within HR, my postgrad qualification. And I was just enjoying it. I was enjoying the lots of different things that you can get involved in. It wasn't just one thing. Every day was different. So that's what I really enjoyed there. But yeah, I was extremely lucky, I think, with that opportunity, and especially, my mentor, who was due to retire.
Yeah, do you know what I used to do before I got into a job where I constantly speak about HR?
No, tell me.
Teaching.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I myself, I used to be an English teacher. Yeah, I was an English teacher and I bounced around between age groups. I did middle school, I did high school, and then I got thrown into first grade, which was just something just in and of itself. First day of teaching first grade, I go and I start teaching the way I normally do. I write a whole bunch of stuff on the board.
Mm-hmm.
I go on and on and on. I go, oh no, they don't know how to read yet. Yeah, I just see like a bunch of blank faces staring at the board, petrified.
Yeah.
So,
a different approach needed.
Did you do a lot of did you try teaching before
I did. So as part of my degree at university, it was a 4-year degree, and the third year you could choose a placement. So whether you wanted to do a work placement, or so forth, I decided to go and teach. So I was teaching English, in France, in the north of France, because my degree was in French. Which I haven't really used since. But yeah, that was my third year of university. So yeah, what was I, 21 then? I was teaching English to 15 to 18-year-olds.
that's again, that's just something else.
Then I decided, no, teaching is not for me after that experience. Great experience, but I decided, no, not for me.
But now, I mean, now that you're in HR, after you've been in a classroom with, 15 to 16-year-olds, there is nothing a boardroom can throw at you,
No, no,
right?
no, no. Definitely not. So yeah, great experiences really set me up. But I thought, no, not the teaching aspect in schools. That just wasn't for me.
But any skills that you feel like were transferable from teaching to human resources?
Definitely. I mean, just being able to stand up in front of a classroom and being able to convey your message as to what you're trying to get across and having the confidence to do that, that
Mhm.
was something. I'm very much an introvert, I would describe myself. So being forced into that situation and having to do that with what 15 to 20 children in a room, with then them asking lots of questions. I didn't fully understand the language as well. So then you've got the language barrier, that
Ooh, yeah.
French is their native and English is my native language. So that, as you've mentioned there, transferring that into a boardroom or with senior stakeholders, they don't have as silly questions as school children do, as a 15-year-old does. So it's like, yeah, throw all the questions at me, but having that confidence to, yeah, be like, well, this is what I'm here to say. This is my message. This is how
Uh-huh.
I'm going to convey it. And yeah, you will listen to me. And yeah, let's have a discussion around that. So definitely that as a transferable skill.
Yeah, a lot of the time what people don't realize is no matter where you are and no matter which crowd you're speaking in front of, it's a performance, right? It's a gig, it's a performance. You're
Yes.
fighting for someone's attention span, and those attention spans are getting lower and getting shorter by the day. And yeah, I mean, nothing when you're a teacher, you do that for like so many times a day, just over and over and over again. Yeah, there are definitely some like very transferable skills. To get my first ever teaching gig, they told me like, "Do you have any experience?" I said, "Well, I used to just perform in bars, and that's like all the crowd experience I have." Somehow they hired me. So for some reason, they decided, "Yep, this is the guy we're going with." Uh, So, uh, quick question: uh, HR or people and culture?
HR is people and culture.
There you go.
It is.
Okay.
I actually don't like the
I like
term.
how that sounds.
Yeah, human resources. Humans are not resources, and I know
Hmm.
that's just the generic term.
Uh-huh.
And when I started out in HR, it was personnel. I was the personnel officer at the time. So some of the terminologies do change over the years. Yeah, HR, but human resources, it's people and culture. That's what I think underpins everything that we do within the HR world.
Yeah, I feel like that is the better term, but HR is like the term has been around for so long and it just flows off of the tongue.
Yes.
Uh, but I mean, a previous guest on the show were a couple, Tara Furiani and Justin Boggs. They have a podcast called Not the HR Lady.
Okay.
And the whole thing started from Tara, who was, I believe, was a chief people officer, and someone referred to her as, "Oh, the HR lady," and she just took that personally and ran with it.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. So, uh, but you don't have, and that's part of the reason I really wanted to talk to you on the show. I mean, we already had this conversation off the record, but I got that's this is kind of one of the reasons I really wanted you on the show. You're not following a very conventional HR path right now. I mean, you followed it beforehand, but you are currently freelancing HR.
Hmm.
And usually, when you say the word freelance, you think about copywriters and designers. And yeah, I started off freelancing for Teamflect before I was recruited full time, but that was just me writing blog articles and filming some stuff. Uh, freelancing HR is a bit more unconventional. And I just wanted to ask, how did that whole thing start?
So, very good question. So yeah, my HR career has been, excuse me, quite traditional, as you said.
Mhm,
So starting as HR admin, HR officer, HR manager, and so on and so on. Um, I realized quite early on, when I was thinking my longer term career ambitions. So when your manager asks you, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? And so on. And I forced to think, and I always knew I wanted to be more independent. So I knew
mhm,
I wanted to be freelance and an independent HR consultant ultimately in my career.
mhm,
As to when that would happen,
mhm,
I did not know. Um, but yeah, with my last permanent role, I was with that company for over 10 years, so a whole decade. I started with them in my late 20s, and then left them when I was reaching my 40s. So yeah, I was with them for a very long time. I decided to leave. It was a very long tenure. I'd come to the end of my journey with them. I took a few months out, concentrated on a lot of things with my dog and reflected back, and lots of nice holidays and climbing mountains and things, which was amazing. Um, then it came to January. I was like, right, I need to look for a new job. So I started putting myself out there. I dusted off my CV. I was interviewing for permanent roles, for contract roles. I was very open. Um, and then it was the power of LinkedIn. So I put on LinkedIn, hey guys, I'm open for work. Ideally, I would want a contract or a consultant type role.
mhm,
And it was my contacts that came through. Some guys that I had worked with in my previous organization, so over 10 years ago, they'd set up their own startup type firm. So they were the founders of a
mhm.
new organization, and they needed HR, people, practices, and processes to be built from the bottom up. And they said, do you want to come along and do that? Like, yeah, sure, that sounds amazing. I can be in control of my own work. I can develop things and build things for them right from the ground up.
Mm.
I set up my own company, Rebecca Ives HR Consultancy Limited, and that was almost 2 years ago.
That's awesome. And how many companies are you working with right now?
Two. I have two, and they're quite similar in regards to, I call them startups. They're not startups, but they're at the
Mhm,
start of their HR journey. So they're
mhm.
very much growing their permanent team, so need some of the basics of HR built for them.
And how was the experience? I'm not gonna say juggling because like I know you're not like juggling then. I know you're like, I mean, if you had more, I know like you wouldn't take on two companies if you like didn't have like enough time for all of them. But how do you like compartmentalize your brain working like implementing HR in two different places? Because I know if I tried writing for two separate companies, Teamflect and Screen at the time. One of them was just full on performance management, managing remote teams, etc. And the other one was, hey, which Avenger are you? So they, they were two separate. And at the end of the day, I said, okay, I'm not going to be able to do like focus on like the Screen stuff too much. So how do you compartmentalize working HR for like two separate organizations?
Yeah. So you mentioned juggling. It feels like juggling sometimes. It really does. Um, I think one of the main things, I have my set days. So that for
Mhm.
me, it's not a case of, oh, I do an hour here and an hour there. I have my set, excuse me, days of working because, yeah, I need to know today I'm going in to work for this company.
Uh-huh.
And this is what I'm doing. Yeah, I mean, HR is HR. However, it the people are different, the culture is different, and the business strategy is different. So that's the juggling. And
What
that's
else is
something,
there?
yeah, because quite often I see, and this was something I was quite apprehensive about being freelance,
Mhm.
and what I've seen other HR consultants do is like, oh, we need a new career and performance process. Pick it up. There you go. There it is. And I'm like, no, 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 no. What's the business strategy? What are you trying to achieve here? What's your culture? What type of people do you have? What demographics do you have? Right. Once I understand that, now let's look at your career and performance. So it's building purpose built people, processes, and practices. So I think that helps. So then when I'm thinking of the first company or the second company, it's like, I know who they are. I know their business strategy. I know their culture. So then quite easily, oh yeah, I'm wearing this hat today.
Yeah, it is as personal as it gets. Right?
Yes.
When you're like, I'm not gonna oversimplify other departments because there are probably intricacies to other departments that I can't possibly wrap my head around. But when you're trying to build HR from the ground up with multiple organizations, it is just way too personal. It is too
Yes.
personal. A whole bunch of people, and there has to be some like process of getting to know them. I was just about to use the word flirting, but
Mm.
it's just
Business
like the
flirting.
yeah, exactly business flirting, just like the early days of a romance. You know, learning their favorite tea or learning their favorite food, and then remembering the important anniversaries, their parents' names, just
Yeah.
slowly just building that base. So how is when you're joining let's say startup, how is what are the steps you take when you're implementing a new HR system?
So one of the first things I always like to do is understand them. So I'm very much in
Mm-hmm.
listening mode. The strategy, what are you trying to achieve? Okay, some of the basic statistics I'm looking for is your permanent headcount growth and what does the team look like and so on, as well as the commercial aspects. So that's always a listening exercise. Then very quickly, I like to do a HR health check.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a template that I've always used. It's been very successful. And it's to go through all different stages of the HR life cycle, right from recruitment, onboarding, to then to learning, development, retention, performance, offboarding, and so on. And it's asking questions to the key stakeholders. So usually the executive directors, the founders of the organization, right? What's your level of maturity? Firstly,
Mm-hmm.
so how mature do you believe you are in these certain areas? But then the second question is how important are these areas to your business? So
Mm-hmm.
then I can quite easily come up with a matrix to say, okay, the ones that are high importance and lowest maturity, that's where we need to focus first. So a perfect example of the companies that I've worked for when I was at the start of the journey with them, they were very much in attraction mode. So
Mm-hmm.
attracting new members into the team, they needed a benefits package. So
Mm-hmm.
straight away it was like, right, let's go over there and concentrate on that. There was no point at that time concentrating on performance. So they had one or
Mm-hmm.
two permanent members of the team. So yeah, so the health check to really look and take that step back. How mature are you? But what's important in line with your business strategy? And that's the areas of HR that we'll focus on first.
That's brilliant. And when you're doing the health check, are there any like common red flags that you notice and you go like, okay, well, okay, first we need to address that. I mean, that's not good.
Um, Sometimes the perception of how what they think their maturity level might be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I do a two-pronged approach. I have a template that they reflect and they look through and they fill it in themselves, but then I interview them and each as an individual, not as a group, because I don't want the
Mm-hmm.
collective view. Ultimately, I will get the collective view. Um, Red flags aren't usually then as to how they rate themselves. It's probably differences between the stakeholders. So
Mm-hmm.
then very quickly you can start to say, okay, I understand where your priorities are versus the other founder of the company. And that's quite an interesting discussion then to be like, all
Uh-huh.
right, which area are we focusing on first? And that's then just stakeholder management and Yeah.
Yeah.
Figuring out what individual priorities are, and I'm there for the company priorities, not the
Hmm.
individual ones. So that for me, not so much a red flag, but more something that needs to be managed quite well.
Hmm. And yeah, then I mean the easiness or the difficultness of your job depends entirely on those stakeholders and just what kind of
Yes.
managers or leaders they are. Like if they both like compromise and if they have a healthy discussion, then I guess your life becomes a lot easier.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
I can mind that. And so you and I met because you are using our product, Teamflect, with some of the organizations you're working with.
Yes,
And we did a small success story together, which is coming out soon, and it's going to be beautiful. And you told me that you were using Teamflect for probation periods
correct.
in one of the organizations. Now, I recently filmed a YouTube video for the Teamflect YouTube channel on just basics and essentials of probation periods. And I have to say, I have a pet peeve against the word probation. I don't think it belongs. It's just, it has such negative connotations.
Yes,
It's a bit like you hear it and you go like, nudge, nudge, you're on thin ice.
yes,
Hey, watch your back. And like when I was in that situation, I'd go, you know how hard it was to get this job? And now for the next 3 to 6 months, I'm gonna be just walking on eggshells.
yeah.
So the word probation, I mean, it is a word from the criminal justice system. What is it doing uh, in the workplace? So, what are your thoughts on some of the key aspects of probationary periods and just or someone I interviewed, Amy Brand, once that told me they changed the name and they called it a settling in period, which is
Okay, nice.
which is a lot nicer. So, what are your thoughts on probation periods and just some of the best practices to be followed during those times?
Yeah, I agree with you. The term, it's similar to the term of HR
Hmm.
referring to people as resources. And it's like, no, it doesn't sit well with me. But yeah, it's a known industry term.
Yeah.
And I think straight away the word, and as you said, there comes from the criminal justice system. Straight away, it makes you think that the power is with the employer, with the company, not the
Hmm.
employee. Whereas actually, and something I've tried to do with the companies I've been working with recently, is it's a period of mutual evaluation,
Hmm.
equal. It shouldn't be employer employee. And that's typically, I think, why employees are treading on eggshells. They think they're on thin ice. They think they have to
Hmm.
jump through
Hmm.
hoops. Whereas actually, the probation, from an employment contract perspective,
Hmm.
the employee has the power to say, hey, this company is not for me. This isn't working
Yeah.
out. I'm going to fail the probation. Um,
Hmm.
so that's something I've really tried to instill, that it's that period of mutual evaluation. And the whole aim of the probation is to increase the probability that the employee will succeed.
Hmm.
They've already been through a rigorous recruitment process, you would hope. So now it's letting them learn about the organization, start to understand the culture, the values, the way things happen around here, and make sure they're going to succeed after their 3 months, their 6 months, or whatever it might be. Um, so key things, because I've seen probations done well and I've seen them
Hmm.
being done not so well over my experience. Um, Number one, I think, is the regular check-ins. And that's
Hmm.
not just the manager giving feedback to the employee. That's the other way. And something we built into the Teamflect probation reviews was some nice open questions. How are you feeling? How would you rate your experience so far at the company? Whereas typically you only get the ratings from the manager to the employee. So I've tried to switch that round, that it's more equal. Um, so the check-ins with open conversations with some nice questions on both sides. Secondly is feedback, honest and constructive feedback, two-way, not just one
Hmm.
way, up as well. what do you think of this organization? Is there anything we need to do to improve your experience here? Have you got all the tools that you need to do your job effectively? Those types of questions. So check-ins, feedback. And then the third one, and I think something that generally happens in probation, is people, the company, the managers assess technical capability. Technical capability can be taught. I could put you in a classroom and teach you whatever it might be. It's the cultural fit with the values. So the assessment I really see that the company is doing with the employee is, right, this is our values and this is what the behaviors I expect you to demonstrate, and this is how you are demonstrating them on a day-to-day basis. So focus on culture and values rather than technical capability.
All right. And if you want to manage your probation period as effectively as Rebecca does, you might want to give the best onboarding software in the Microsoft Teams ecosystem, Teamflect, a try. If you want to schedule a free demo with Teamflect, you can always click the link in the description. Okay, you set me up beautifully. I had to sneak one in there.
But to be fair, that's where Teamflect has been great with the check-ins, like just leaving it to the manager. Everyone's very busy. That 3 months or 6 months can fly by. So having auto reminders, having a template of the types of questions and everything, that it's just all automated and there's a log of it. So I'm very much with my compliance and HR legal hat on. You need to have a record of these types of conversations just in case stuff doesn't work out.
Definitely.
That's where a tool definitely helps.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I mean, it's just really nice to hear all that. And yeah, what you said about technical proficiencies and cultural fit, I think that is the essence of it. Like you said, technical skills can be taught, but if a bunch of people are not working well together and they're not going to enjoy working together, that is often a lot harder to fix.
Yes. And you can't teach that.
Yeah, you can't. No way. One thing that is really strange about probation period durations is, 3 to 6 months. Well, normally when you start working somewhere, problems don't really rear their head until like after the first 5 or 6 months anyway. Because it is kind of, using the same relationship analogy, it is kind of the honeymoon phase. You're getting to know your responsibilities. Oh, look, a bunch of new people. And when you're meeting people for the first time, they're always nice and you're always your best self. You're not showing like those little bad habits as well. So the first 6 months are often always like smoother sailing than the next 6. So those regular check-ins and constant just reminders on, hey, let's talk, hey, let's get to know each other better. I think that is the reason why they're so important. You just want to cram as much just getting to know each other as possible into those first 3 to 6 months. And what are some of the common mistakes people make with probationary periods?
I think going back to my initial point, they think it's purely an assessment from the company to the employee.
Yeah.
That mutual evaluation, and I've never seen any company that actually sit down and say, well, this probation, it's for you as well as the employee. If you decide that this, because we might have, I don't know, in the recruitment process, some companies like to sell the dream. I call it and say, yeah, come and join us. This is the role and we're an amazing company and these are our values and it all looks rosy. Then you get in.
A lot of this.
Yeah.
A lot of just patting themselves on the back.
Yeah. Then you get in and you get underneath the hood and it's like, this is reality, is it? Okay, you've shown me your outside profile, you've done your window dressing very nicely, but then when I come in, it's not so good. So yeah, I think that's the key thing, that period of mutual evaluation. And that's where asking those questions, how are you getting on here? Rating the and doing a simple rating. What is your experience of the company so far? So that's one. Another one as well, I think one of the areas that doesn't always work very well is, we're here to test you. I'm going to test you. And I'm going to put you in situations and I'm going to assess you. And it's, no, you should be there to help the employee succeed. So it's partnering with them, giving them development, giving them exposure to areas of the business to help them understand that culture and the way things are done. So it always comes down to the power between employer, employee, and it's just shifting that. I think those are the key flags, red flags that I always see, and when probation is not done well.
Yeah, it's definitely all about that power dynamic. Like you said, I mean, one thing about job interviews that I always heard was, well, I mean, until they make you the offer, they have all the power. And
Yeah.
once they make you the offer, until the moment you sign, then you have all the power. But make sure you enjoy it, because the second you sign it, you give it back to them. And
Yes.
that sense of tug of war, that doesn't feel healthy to me. That
No. And that's the employment relationship, I know. But
Mhm.
yeah, very much when I was looking for work 2 years ago, and that was the first time I'd actively looked for work in 10 years. So it was very
How
different.
what how was that feeling? How was that feeling of just 10 years, same place, and now just looking for work?
Yeah,
It's
and
been
I'd
it
always
had already
been,
been so long since you looked for work.
yeah, completely. And I'd always been on the other side of the table interviewing. So I was very known what's the best interview techniques and everything, and interviewing candidates. So I knew that side. Then me being on the
Hmm.
candidate side, um, it was a very interesting experience. And I actually wrote a LinkedIn article on it. I
Uh-huh.
had to do a post of my experience.
Oh yeah.
Some companies were great, some not so great, because it's the power. And I was very much, I didn't know in my mind what type of role or company I wanted at that point. So I was very much, I'm interviewing you
Hmm.
because I want to
And
understand
yeah,
who you are and what your
and,
company is and what the role is.
and it's always easier to decide what you don't want
Yes.
before what exactly you want. And question, after being on the other side for so long, and then just going back to, interviewing actually to get a job, uh, did the whole process make you do some like self-reflection and go, ooh, maybe I should have done things differently?
Yeah, I think probably I should have had a bit more clarity as to what were my must-haves versus the
Uh-huh.
nice-to-haves going into it. But no, I did have I had some of that, but I didn't know what type of company and culture I was looking for. It was more
Mm.
around the role, and I wanted breadth of HR across the employee life cycle and so on. Um, yeah, I don't think anything else. I think you get to understand quite quickly through having a conversation as to what the culture is like in the organization. So quite quickly, if I wasn't able to ask questions in a conversational mode, if it was only right at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
interview, we've done 45 minutes, we have 5 minutes left for your questions. I'm like, red flag, nah.
Yeah.
Um, you've got all the power. I was here to interview you, as well. So yeah, you can figure out quite quickly.
Yeah, thank you so much. That whole, yeah, I think two of the things that just downright suck with job interviews is number one, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I don't know. I don't know. Hopefully as a rock star, if not working here, I guess. That's kind of where I go. But the second thing is, we can have if the interview is just an interrogation instead of just a conversation, it's
Yes.
just a question, a reaction on the part of the person being interviewed, and then another question, another answer, and then finally, towards the end, we go, okay, well, do you have any questions for me? Like you said, it's not a conversation anymore.
No. And some of the interviews can feel very robotic. And I'm like, no, they have their set of questions, and I know I've developed them myself, competency-based questions, and I need to be able to, but it was so rigid and stiff. And I was like, if this is the way you do your interviews, then I can only imagine how you deal with your
Ooh.
employees and the employee experience and the culture. So yeah, that for me, I was like, no, this company is not for me.
Yeah, so I mean, once you've actually like planned, once you've been in your position, like so you know how the sausage is made, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of the thing. You know what the interviewer is thinking when they were like planning those questions, when they're asking them. So I feel like you would be able to just read the person interviewing you
Yeah.
very well.
Yeah, definitely. And I can see, and that's where when it's done well, I can see they
Hmm.
have their set questions. Of course they do. There's various things that you need to ask the candidate. You need to check that they've got the technical capability, whatever that's in. You need to check the values, the cultural fit, and all that. Great. But they're interested in you. They're not just reading off a crib sheet. They're actually interested,
Hmm.
and they're passionate about what they do as well. That ignites something else, that
Yeah.
you're like, right, okay. And that gives you an insight to the culture of not just that person, but the organization.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like watching someone do their job and have fun doing it. Like be
Yeah.
excited about it, just show that passion. It doesn't have to be like incredible performance, doesn't have to be just like an amazing job, an amazing work. But once, like when you see someone just really having a good time doing their job, that can be really infectious.
Yes. And it can inspire you for sure.
And same doesn't have to just go for recruiting. Even like with members of a team, if you have like a bunch of really high performers who are constantly turning in excellent work, well, one really excited and happy person can inspire the rest of the team a lot better than like those who are just pumping out great work.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's something that is forgotten when we talk about HR and people practices and processes and probation period and performance management and all that. It comes down to what's the employee experience and how is this going to add value to the
Hmm.
employee in the work that they are doing. Because typically HR type processes are seen as extra. It's like, well, I've got my job here. I need to go and do this and be an
Hmm.
engineer or do my finance or do my IT. And then, oh, probation over there, where they shouldn't be seen as separate. But quite often HR processes are seen as separate because they're not adding value to the employee
Hmm.
experience.
Yeah. Amen. Just, uh, just recently, I've been seeing a lot of internet memes about personality hires and just the people who may not have like all competencies, but they just bring a different aura to the workplace and they just make that place fun to work. And at the end of the day, it's all about people. It's all about just people you're working with because you're going to be spending a lot of time with them. So
Yes.
it's all about just finding the people who will enjoy working with each other. And uh, I mean, I'm loving this conversation, but I would hate myself if I didn't ask this because I caught this little tidbit as you were telling me your story. You said you were, after, you left the long job, you said you were climbing mountains and you just snuck that by
I climbed one mountain. I probably
one
said
mountain. Oh, okay.
I did plural, but it was just one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so what did we do? So I needed a holiday. I knew I wanted, right,
Uh-huh.
holiday. Um, I go everywhere with my dog. So we
Uh-huh.
stayed within the UK, and we went to Wales. I was actually born in Wales, so I was like, let's go there. I moved away from there when I was 5 years old, so I was like, let's go back. So me and my two
Mhm.
sisters, and our two dogs, we went and we decided we would climb Mount Snowdon.
Okay, and how was the climb?
Um, Awful. I won't be doing it again. Um, Great experience. I
Uh-huh.
would describe myself. I'm quite fit. I work
Uh-huh.
out. I run. Climbing a mountain is something else. Yeah, and I realized as well, older I get, the less I like heights.
Oh,
So yeah, no.
yeah, I can imagine. Was there any like technical climbing in there, or was it
No,
just
no, no, no.
putting one foot in front of the other, but for a very long time?
Yes, yeah. I think it was 7 hours up
Ooh.
and down.
Oh.
Perfect day. It was a perfect day.
Uh-huh.
The sun was shining. It wasn't too hot. It was September. So a good time of year, autumn. Um, yeah, but no, no,
Never touching that thing again.
no, no.
And yeah, again, one last thing I have to touch upon, and it's again not HR related at all. Tell me about the dog.
The dog. So my dog is called Lady. I'm a big Disney fan, so Lady and the
Oh,
Tramp.
so is she a King Charles as well?
No, she's not. She's a Springer Doodle.
Okay.
So a cross between a Springer Spaniel and a Poodle, but she has the
Hmm.
same colouring as
Hmm.
Lady from the films. And sometimes she's a lady, sometimes she's not. Sometimes she's very naughty. Um, but yeah, she's great. She's actually just recently qualified to be a therapy dog.
Oh,
Um,
hello.
so we are working with a local charity where we will go and hopefully educate school children. So we'll be going into schools,
Hmm.
but also then into residential care homes for the elderly
Hmm.
and into the university to make people smile.
That's beautiful. I feel like my dog could just do the exact opposite and just give your dog a lot of new cases to work on. So how did you meet your dog?
So I never liked dogs. Um,
Hmm.
One, I was allergic, and two, when I was younger, there was always a dog next door that would jump up, and I was scared. So I was scared
Hmm.
of dogs and I was allergic. So I never intended to get a dog. But then my sister got one. I realized how nice they can be, how much value they can add to your life. And then one day an advert came up. There's a litter of puppies 10 minutes away. I was like, let's go and have a look. If you go and have a look at a puppy, you're probably going to be
Yeah, yeah.
bringing
I
one
mean,
home.
you, yeah, exactly. And if you see a sign that says, "Hey, puppies for you to look at," you follow that sign.
Yes. Yeah. So it was a sign, and I very much believe in karma and destiny.
Hmm.
So we went to see, and there she was, little lady straight away. It was her. And then 8 weeks later, she came home, and she's 4 now. She's 4 years old, and we do everything together. So yeah, she's
Right?
amazing.
Yeah. I'm like a very similar story to you. Never wanted a dog. My girlfriend would always go, "Emre, you should get a dog. You should get a dog." But it's not like we should get a dog. No, Emre, you should get a dog. Like, I mean, you're the one living in your own place, and yeah, you should get a dog. I'm not getting a dog. I mean, they're a lot of work. They
They
limit your
are.
life. Just
They are.
all this stuff. There's no way I'm getting a dog until we're surfing one day, and we meet a Jack Russell stranded on a beach, and I I just figure, okay, like you're coming with me, but I'm definitely finding you a
Hmm.
permanent home. You're not staying. No way. But just and I did find him a permanent home. And they said, okay, yeah, we'll pick him up in a month. Just a whole month passes, and I said, yep, yep, find another dog. No, this one stays.
Oh, so it was meant to
Yeah,
be. You
yeah,
found
it was,
each other.
yeah, exactly. It was meant to be. And yeah. so far so good. He's like a part-time employee of Teamflect as well. Actually,
Yeah.
he's like the mascot. So
Yeah. There you go.
we
Yeah. But
we're
dogs are
doing
very
that.
good, and something I've learnt, the empathy and what dogs have and just their pure nature. They don't judge. They don't
Hmm.
judge you.
Yeah,
They just want to be happy. They want to please you.
yeah.
And okay, can I relate that to HR? I can when I talk about employee experience and everything. And it's like, well, yeah, I want to make you excited to come to work and things. You can relate some of the things of a dog, but the pure essence of them as well is they don't play games. They won't deceive you and everything. It's like, here I am. They can't talk, but they'll tell you what they're feeling, and you can, yeah, yeah. So
I mean, Rebecca, if you push hard enough, you can relate anything to
you can,
HR.
you can. To be fair, yes.
But I agree with that, with everything you said, except for the part of dogs not judging you. Because every once in a while, I, 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 I don't know if you get it, but if you get those looks, but every once in a while, especially when I'm home alone with the dog, you know what people do when they're home alone. You do silly stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, especially when I'm cooking, I like to just uh, put on a messy tank top and pretend I'm working in a diner and calling out orders. First, even if I'm alone, like even if I don't smoke, I'll just pretend to have a cigarette. Just it's just a little fun little ritual I have with myself.
Yeah.
And just smack dab in the middle of order 6, I catch him sitting with his head tilted. Like, what are you doing,
What are you
human?
doing? Yeah,
What
yeah.
are you doing with your life?
Yeah, there is some
Okay.
judgment. Lady doesn't like it if I'm cooking and sometimes like to put music on. If I dance and my dancing is terrible, she will literally come and bark at me, and she doesn't bark very often. She says, stop,
That's your
don't
sign to
dance.
stop. Like, no, no. Oh my God. Yep. See, oh, the second we start talking dogs, this could go for hours.
Oh, it could.
Just
It
yeah,
could.
immediately you turn into those like one of those annoying old people with their just showing you
Yes.
pictures and pictures of their grandkids. I mean, we can okay, the audience, we will spare you the rest
Yeah.
of the
We'll
dog
have to do a dog
conversation.
themed podcast just
W-
on its own.
Oh
Just for
my
dog
God,
people.
I'm so down for doing a puppy episode.
Yes.
Uh, okay, done. That yes. Okay. I'm loving that. But Rebecca, thank you so very much for coming on the show. I will definitely link to your LinkedIn profile as well. I'm
Perfect.
sure everything you write, I'm sure a lot of people will gain a lot just by reading them. This was just a beautiful conversation. I had a lot of fun chatting with you. And yeah, this has been the team check-in, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Bye.